Welcome back to the Kirk Miller Podcast, guys. Today I have a very special guest, Douglas Gremmen. Said your name right?
Absolutely.
MD of the US region of HYROX,
Yep.
if I said that correct. Now I know some people are going to be listening to this or watching this back on YouTube who have competed in HYROX. Some people might not have ever heard of it. But I can say firsthand, I mean, I've been in professional sport and professional coaching for an awful long time, Douglas, and I've not seen many things that have exploded at the rate HYROX has, and has drew so many different people in from different countries and different backgrounds and different ages and all this type of stuff. So first and foremost, Douglas, it's an absolute honor to have you on the Kirk Miller Podcast today, ahead of a very, very busy weekend for you. With the New York HYROX. So first and foremost, mate, welcome to the Kirk Miller Podcast, and it's great to have you here.
Thank you. And obviously it's great to be here. Great to have you in New York. I mean, this is also part of the journey that you're on as an athlete, and traveling all the way from Dubai with your community into HYROX, New York. It just kind of shows, that this is a true movement and that people are coming from all over the world to, first of all, experience an amazing city, experience a great sport, and then, build friendships along the way as we've kind of building over the last 2 to 3 months as we talk about your business, our business, what is the overlap. So I think that is really what is beautiful about building a business, when you also build friendships and connections and relationships and potential opportunities together. Yeah,
no, absolutely. But just to kick things off, Douglas, what was your personal journey before HYROX, and what is your role now within HYROX? So what did you do before, and how did you and HYROX come together? What happened?
42 years old, been pretty much in the sports marketing business since the age of 19.
Yeah.
Started in London, went to the University of Bath, had a strong affinity to sports, tried to get into investment banking, didn't quite work out for me, but immediately kind of saw that opportunity that you kind of have to follow your passion, and that was sport at the time, and was lucky enough to literally start my first internships at the age of 19 at IMG, big sports management firm, Tiger Woods, loads of tennis players, and kind of build a sports marketing career on the back of that. Worked 15 years in commercial European football across multiple football clubs in Italy and Spain and France and Germany under a big agency called Lagardère.
Okay.
That's also where I met Christian Tutske, the founder and CEO of HYROX, who had a triathlon marathon business, which was part of our portfolio. Then made a small escapade into show jumping.
What do you mean?
It was an interesting opportunity. So met the owner of Marseille Football Club, a pretty renowned football club in Europe, owned by an American who used to own the Dodgers. And he just invested 50% in a global show jumping series with the likes of Bill Gates and Michael Bloomberg. And he wanted to make show jumping more mainstream. So I literally jumped in, I would almost say a little bit like a horse, like not really know what to expect. Traveled the world for 2-3 years, and I was like, hey, this, horses are great, but it's probably not really what I'm made for, and kind of was longing for a more normal life. So, spoke to Christian, was just post-COVID, and said, hey, how do we bring HYROX to Holland? Got the wheel spinning again, and brought HYROX to Holland, and brought it to the UK, where it then became an imminent success. And 2 years later, when I said I don't want to move again, after moving, pretty much living in 7-8 countries in the last 14 years, here I am, living in the US with my family, on another journey, on another adventure. But this one is definitely one that's worth sticking around for, because I've been involved with the company now for 3 years. Raised the first HYROX in 2017 as a mere.
Did you personally raise that?
Personally raised in 2017, right? I was working for a big sports agency. It was happening in Hamburg. Yeah. Oh, some friends were doing it. Come to the first HYROX workout. I'm like, what is HYROX? Like, never heard of it. Actually had a different name at the time. Ski erg, sled push. Like, those were things that weren't even part of a normal gym setup. So I was trying to do like tricep extensions to imitate what a ski erg looked like. Obviously had 4 or 5 weeks to prepare to run into the first HYROX race. Actually had Christian or Mo judge me on wall balls, like very, very hard. I think they pretty much took me 13 minutes to do the 100 wall balls, never even knew what it was. So it just shows where it's come from, and also how fitness is developed, right? Where I thought I was an avid tennis player, played tennis at a high level, thinking, hey, I'm fit, I'm strong, go to the gym pretty much every day, but was doing more the traditional stuff, right? Just a lot of bench press, a lot of treadmill work, and then all of a sudden HYROX comes about, saw loads of fit guys going, wow, maybe I'm not that fit and strong, but it was just amazing to see how it was not a niche at the time, but it was kind of like first of its time, right? To really make functional fitness into a mainstream thing. So raced, got hurt, got punished, it was a real reality check. And obviously...
Were you as bad as me though, Douglas? My first HYROX race, I think we joked about this when we first connected. I probably had about 4 weeks concentrated training of practicing some of the HYROX movements. I did a doubles with Jeremy Jauncey, great friend, and went off like an absolute machine, as most do. In my head, I remember Gabby, my partner, she's like, Kurt, just don't get stupid first one. I'm like, no. And then when you turn up, you're like, and I then got the most horrific cramp I've ever felt. Even in professional football, I never had cramp like it, and it was just trying to survive for half a race. So I'm sure you didn't top that.
Oh, we had honestly no idea. I mean, obviously now YouTube is fully plastered with tips and tricks and don't burn yourself out. And still people burn themselves out. Why? Because you're competing against yourself. You're competing against people in your group. You're competing against friends. It's the mind, and the adrenaline takes over, and it's mind-boggling to see that I probably ran my fastest kilometer in my life in the first run, and probably ran my slowest kilometer in my life in the same race format, right? So I think, and that is the beauty of the sport, where you can prepare, you can go in there, and all of a sudden your mind just does something completely opposite, which is the beauty about sport, right? I mean, you can be on a driving range, hit millions of balls, and you end up on the first tee, and you shank the first one right into the clubhouse. That's the beauty of what nerves and emotions and adrenaline and competition does to you. And I think that has been the biggest transition of going from a gym, or as Christian some to say, going from a driving range into a sporting environment where you all of a sudden have to compete. You have to look at your sleep. You have to look at your nutrition. What are some of the things that have come along the way, right? We just met somebody that walked outside and said, hey, are you ready for HYROX? And he goes, yes, but my hamstring, my this, my that. Yeah. And everybody's got their own thought process, their own insecurities, their own confidence levels. And then all of a sudden, once you're on the race course, it's level playing field. And, you compete on the day. Mostly, hopefully, most people do it for themselves. And obviously 2-3% will do it to race against the rest. But as we say, that's the beauty of sport. When you can compete at the highest level, you can compete at the lowest level, and everybody's going through that same journey. And I think that's really what we're trying to achieve, of bringing fitness to a more sporting arena.
Yeah, I suppose that leads me on to my first question. I mean, I don't usually like scripted questions and stuff, but I want to really maximize the time with you today, Douglas, and talk a little bit about the race and then the the business aspect as well. But for those who don't know what HYROX is, what is HYROX and who's it aimed at?
So almost like 5 years on, it's almost like an interesting question to answer, right? Because it started out as a pure events concept. And I think it's good to place it in context, because we came, definitely with Christian's background, from mass participation sport.
Yeah.
What is the beauty about mass participation sport? Every level can compete. It's a race against time, You can do a marathon in 6 hours, you can do it in 4 hours, you can do it in 2 hours. So the idea was to really take functional, natural movements that are inherent to every able body type, which is, it's lunging, it's squatting, it's running, it's pushing, it's pulling, and put that into a race format that brings together, the running component, it brings together the strength component into a race format that is actually achievable for everybody. So we created a universal race format, similar in nature to what a marathon is, right? A marathon is always the same race. So how do we create a fitness concept that is exactly one format? So it ended up being 8 times 1 kilometer running with 8 functional workouts. Those 8 functional workouts are always the same. So people know exactly what they're getting into. They understand what to prepare for. And once they finish the race, they know exactly what to go back home with and train for. So the race is at 8 times 8 kilometers of running plus 8 functional workouts. You finish in 53 minutes is the world record. We now have a world record slowest pace as well, which is around just short of 4 hours, where somebody took 55 minutes to do the lunges. But 99% of our people and athletes finish. And I think that's what we created when we talk about creating mass participation fitness event, which is accessible to everybody. It's achievable for everybody, but you can do it at your level.
Yeah. How? I mean, you might not know this, because I know you didn't create the race from scratch. But do you know how they create the actual format itself? In terms of, there's a reason why the ski erg is the first functional station. Then there's a reason why there's a sled push, then the sled pull, then the burpees. I mean, I've got my theory on it, which you might correct me on. I've got the theory that the ski erg, after you've done that first run, you can destroy yourself on that first ski erg, and then that sort of levels the playing field out a little bit. Then you've got the sled push and the sled pull, where even if someone is so fast, the sled push and the sled pull, it's sort of, again, it's that leveler out that it's going to break the pack up a little bit. Is there a specific reason behind the order of the events?
Yeah, first of all, I'm not a sports scientist here, and I must admit, give credit to Mintra and Christian that literally explored not only from a sport technical point of view, and we can talk about the business case later, but there was a lot of practical things we also had to take into consideration. But like you said, I think the two biggest things, looking at it overall, what are the levelers, right? How do you level out a strength athlete, and how do you level out an endurance athlete? I guess the running plus the ski erg immediately levels out the strength athlete, because you go pretty hard in heart rate in the first 8-9 minutes of your race already, which for, as an example, a lot of CrossFit athlete is already quite a lot of capacity work in the first 9 minutes. Maybe easier for an endurance athlete. Then the endurance athlete goes into the sled push, and all of a sudden then it becomes a level playing field, right? Because, and that's the beauty of what we've seen across the board, and I probably don't have the knowledge to really dive into the specific order, but when you go, hey, University of Hamburg have done research into it and saying, hey, it is literally a 50% race between endurance and strength. And I think we've kind of balanced that out really, really well with the rowing and the burpees back in the middle, which are probably a little bit more endurance focused. And then you've got those two really strong strength components with the farmer's carry and the lunges. And then obviously the nice dessert at the end, which is the wall balls, which at that moment in time in the race, you actually don't know what your body is thinking anyway, right? So I think the wall balls is becoming an iconic finisher, which is then again a level playing field, because it's also an absolute a challenge over mind. It is got to be patient. You're getting no rep. It is then also becoming part of, are you willing to endure? And a lot of our elite athletes talk about it. At that stage, you're at one more until you get to 100, right? So it's where people crumble. It's where the elite crumble, and it's obviously where I crumbled with my 13 minutes on the wall balls as well in the first time round. So it's,
but I think that having been in training for a long time, I mean, I've done probably every training method you could possibly imagine on the planet, and that's what I think is so clever about the way it's been put together, because I'm very OCD with the way we program. I remember showing you, the way we do things, Douglas, and there's plenty of backline, there's plenty of glutes, there's with the greatest respect to CrossFit, there's not these movements for me that are going to break people too easily, which I think is so important. So I think for me, structurally, it's going to allow people to compete, but also work their whole body at the same time. And I think sometimes there's other competitions out there where it can be so anterior focused or too posterior focused or too running focused. And I think that is the beauty and the genius for me in HYROX of going, right, how can we create, what's the word, a bit of hope for everybody that, guess what, if I come from a running background and I get a little bit stronger, I can do it. And then if I come from a lifting background, or I've been a bit out of touch with my previous sporting background, even myself, I come from a football background, and I'm thinking, hang on, I've been in the gym, got all these big compounds. If I roll back the years and get fitter, then maybe I can be quite competitive at that. So I think it's great. I really do. Even the way it's been put together, it's...
Yeah, and I think that the smartest thing is almost that everybody can always do one more rep of the exercise that we've chosen, right? And I think I sometimes struggle with just push-up. All of a sudden, the arms are so burned, you can't actually do one more push-up, or you can't do one more pull-up. And I think with the exercises that were chosen here, you can always do one more burpee, because it's more incremental, it's more natural to the body. You're not blowing up, you're getting super tired. But I just gave you the terrible example of somebody doing lunges in 55 minutes to cover 100 meters. He was always able to do one more rep.
Correct.
And I think that's a big difference with other sports formats or other strength components, where at some stage you simply can't lift anymore, you can't pull anymore. And I think this is really why the finishing rate is so astonishingly high, and why we're seeing all ages, all abilities, all shapes and sizes compete at their level. And I think that's the beauty of it, and that's where really the genius comes in to a certain extent.
And I think the genius in that, and this is something we focus on heavily inside Built to Last as well, even with our training principles, by creating a race format like that, where people, even if it takes them longer, they're going to create a new physical threshold that they didn't think possible. the emotional growth and the identity shift from that is incredible. And that just doesn't benefit that person from a training aspect. But guess what? That carries over in business. It carries over in as a parent, when you might need that resilience, or when you get told you get rejection in any way. And I think there's so many parallels between pushing yourself physically and then breaking an emotional limiting belief that might be holding you back in other areas of your life. I think it's gold.
But it's nice to jump into that as well, because obviously you could create the craziest endurance races, right? Where you're really testing David Goggins style. You go like all out, it's mind over matter. Amazing what those guys achieve. Is it healthy? Different discussion, right? And I think we try to find the right balance between what is that mid-endurance level, which means that it's a lot more than a traditional workout. However, it is also a way where you don't need to train 6-8 hours a week or even sometimes a day when you're talking about triathlons, and find that balance between what is healthy performance and what is absolutely not cracking, not very wise, running ultra marathons as an example, right? Just figuring out on the impact on the joints and the ligaments and doing a singular movement over and over and over again. Just finding that right sweet spot between it's tough enough that it's not just another 45-minute workout, because the average race time is an hour and a half, where your body is going through certain thresholds it's never gone before. But you don't require the hours and hours and hours and hours of training that actually could limit your overall health and well-being
and longevity
at the end of the day.
There's no, and also as well, and this is what we have to deal with inside Built to Last with our community. Not everybody has 3-4 hours a day like the elite level athletes to train. Like 99% of our clients train once a day because they have business. They've got partners, they've got children.
You got to program it in. You've got to find what works.
Yeah, no. So I totally get it. Why do you think HYROX has grown so fast?
Yeah, honestly, it's sometimes when you're so close to it, it's almost hard to take the helicopter view, right? Because every time it's a new market, it's a new opportunity, it's a new business line, right? So it's constantly evolving. But when you're really looking at the impact, predominantly post-COVID, right? We created, first of all, we want to create a mass participation sport, right? So we created a sports format where thousands of people could compete. Now, London has got 15,000 people joining our race in November, potentially even going up to 20,000.
Just for context, sorry to interrupt there, mate. The first London event, so there was like
600.
And then now
we're talking first race September 2021 in the UK.
Yeah,
630 people. Went to Birmingham, 700 people. COVID restrictions were lifted in around Christmas. All of a sudden, Manchester saw immense pickup. We got to 2,000 people. Since then, 2,000, 4,000, 8,000, 16,000. And we have a wait list for London of 63,000 people to get into the London event. 63,000.
63,000. Is that for which?
The London event in November, which went live 3 days ago.
63,000
people
wanting
to
Lord.
race.
I mean, obviously, I'm deviating from a question list here, but do you ever see HYROX being held in like a football stadium or something like?
Yeah, and you think that it's always. I think people are not understanding the size and scope of our event. Like football stadiums are not big enough. Like we're talking about London Excel, 20,000 square meter.
Yeah.
Which is probably 3 soccer pitches.
Yeah.
Our ultimate goal, and it's the only way to put, and people have to visualize the race structure, but at the moment we're a little bit limited by the perimeter of the indoor building. We've got a run course anywhere between 400 and 500 meters. Think about the logistics. We're having start ways of 50 to 100 people. They're all congesting the run course. So we have a physical limit in what we're able to do on a day. We're able to bring that up to now 8,000 people in a day, which is still astronomical. It's 100 sleds next to each other. It's 100 skiers. It's 100 rowers. I mean, it's super impressive to see. You'll see it in New York as well. That is very impactful, the size and scope of it. Could we at some stage create the ultimate race experience, maybe outdoors or indoors, where we have no limitation on the run course? We could have 20,000 people running on one day. You have literally marathon style without having to lock up the whole city.
I suppose there's that fine line, isn't it, of going, right, okay, on the actual race, like you say, how crowded does it get? And then all of a sudden it affects the experience of the runner, the athlete. So I suppose these are all...
and I think that's... and then we'll go back to your question of where the successes come from. But that indoor arena, that intimacy that you feel that obviously you don't have in a marathon where you're on your own for, well, maybe triathlon's a better example because obviously the New York Marathon is phenomenal in terms of energy. But to have your friends and family watching you for that whole hour and a half, it just creates this electric environment indoors where you just keep going, you keep doing. And that is really where I think the strength also sits of always improving that event experience. Like, you go this year, you go, wow, that was much better than what it was last year. Creating that ultimate finishing experience. Hey, that's the best mass participation finishing experience in the world with like curated music, potentially with digital signage, with your wall ball rep counter, which says your name on the top and it's counting down, and your wife and your kids can follow you and cheer you on. That is literally what that whole indoor sport is creating. We're going to beautiful outdoor venues. We now have Pier 76 here. We're doing Singapore National Stadium. Christian and the team have some crazy ideas of where we'll be hosting 2 or 3 signature races around the world. That's then the pinnacle. That's the cherry on the cake. But 99% of our venues will be convention centers.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's move on to some specific business questions now. So, are there any specific strategies that you think have been crucial for the rate you've expanded? And what have been the main challenges you've encountered while scaling so far?
It's been, from a marketing side, it's been super interesting, right? And I think every marketing agency that's come our way have tried to explain us how we should market. And I think we very quickly came to the realization, and Mo, our founder and CMO, was also very adamant in that. We're not a product you just sell over Instagram, right? You're not, hey, Kirk is a target customer, I'm going to throw you an ad and within 30 seconds you're clicking buy. That doesn't work. Why not? Because nobody bloody knows what HYROX is. 2, then we say, okay, HYROX is a fitness race. Okay, what the bloody hell is fitness racing? Never heard of that. Is it a workout? Is it a marathon? Is it a CrossFit thing? So by the time I've explained to you what HYROX is, we're talking 6, 7 touch points.
Yes.
Ideally not digital. So when we go back to what our key learning was, like, hey, we need to get into the communities. We need to get into the gym, knock on doors, give workouts in the same way that I was introduced in 2017, going to a local gym, meeting Jakob and Christian and Mo, organizing a simple workout. And literally that's what we've done very, very well. We've made the grassroots the number 1 marketing driver into the first event. Then the event becomes our biggest marketing driver. Why? Because Kirk does it. Kirk does it once. He influences 3 people to go and do it. And that's where we've seen that doubling, tripling effect. And that's why I think from a business focus point of view, we don't invest in digital, but we invest in elevating the event experience. Because if you leave the event with an unbelievable experience, we've got 5,000 people in New York tomorrow that are all going to write about it. They're all going to post about it. That is organic reach, and you're seeing that now across our YouTube and TikTok numbers. Like, the organic reach that we're getting on the top awareness level is just phenomenal. And it's, you know, investing in influencers. You're an amazing influencer. Would we have paid you $1,000 a month to post it? Maybe, but also maybe not. Why? Because if it was truly organic and you as a fitness expert, you go and race and you talk about it. Why? Because it's relevant for your community. So why should I talk to you? Why should I pay you to do something that you should already inherently be doing? So we've really found the gyms, the fitness gurus, sometimes the fitness bobos, the former athletes. They all found their identity in HYROX and became our ambassador, our true ambassadors. And I think that's just been why we're so grassroots, why we're so on the ground in everything we do. We're so in touch with the community, and I think that's been. We cannot digitalize this. No,
and you've just said something that is close to my heart, even with what we're doing with Built to Last. It's the absolute minimum that we want to deliver is a result, a physical result. But the thing that keeps people long term is the emotional experience and the additional value, the new friends, the new connections, the new inspiration. Also, a break from people's day-to-day life. So many people are stressed in work and not so happy in their relationship, maybe bored of their current friendship groups, but they can get, I wouldn't say all of these fixed, but they can get so much an enhancement in their life, in their relationships, in their connections, in how they simply feel by these events. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and that's where, you know, I think we're touched. I mean, there's obviously a lot of people going to the gym. I think there's no doubt about it. It's the biggest sport in the world. But like you said, like, I'm stressed, I'm working hard, got a family, got my own complications. Going to the gym with my headphones on is maybe not the experience I'm looking for. And now that you've created those friendships, those relationships in the gym, all of a sudden your gym actually becomes your clubhouse, like your football club and like my tennis club or like my golf club. It becomes the place where the coach is actually somebody that's part of my life, where the people I train with are part of my life. And I think that's been the biggest change. And I think CrossFit did an amazing job in creating community around fitness. And I think we've got to give credit where the global gyms were always struggling with that personal touch a little bit. And I think those two worlds are coming closer together. We're also the big box gyms, which are extremely relevant because the big box gyms are operating at a price point that is making fitness accessible to everybody. And I think if you can make fitness accessible to everybody, but have also that human touch, and that, then we're making the whole world a healthier, better place, because then we're actually touching every human being, no matter what wallet they have, right? And I think that's why we think we're getting closer to what running is all about, or what running has been about since the Nike days in the 60s and 70s, and 10K runs and half marathons. People have access to running in the same way that people will have access to HYROX at home or in a global gym or at a CrossFit box or at an F45. And I think that's the beauty of it, that we're not being elitist. You don't have to go to a $250 a month gym to train HYROX. You can go to Planet Fitness and get 90% of the work done and everything else in between. And I think that is really what makes this sport. All you need is a pair of running shoes. And that's different from triathlon, and that's different from a lot of other sports out there. And I think this is why we believe it could have the same impact as running has had over the last 30, 40 years.
I also think as well, another great thing by making it a sport or a race is it gives people milestones. When you train aimlessly in the gym, it can be very hard for many people to stay motivated. You know, if it's not hardwired into your identity that you go to the gym, that's who you are and how you live, having a target and a pit stop and something exciting to look forward to, maybe in a different destination. I mean, even for our clients, right? We've got clients that flew over from the UK with me to compete in New York. It's a target. It's somewhat tangible rather than just, how much am I going to squat today as opposed to last week. And you're also seeing different cities in the same process. So it's like you're tying in, maybe you're seeing a new place, but also having a fitness aspect to that, which I think is gold. And I'm sure you do realize, Douglas, but I think you said there about the ripple effect. If people are having their respite from their jobs and they're having these amazing sessions and workouts and competitions with new connections, they're going to bring a happier them to their relationship. They're going to be in a better mood, maybe going into work the next day or the next week because they're buzzing, they're still talking about it. And so I think the emotional impact is monstrous.
No, and you asked earlier about what the impact or where the growth is coming from. And I think during COVID, we came from a very strong digital era of fitness, right? All of a sudden, hundreds of fitness apps were literally left to right and center. And people, wanted to get fitter, but they were actually longing for a community experience. They were longing for getting together again. And I think us bringing communities together, having that moment in time where you can, go through those emotions of building up to an event, those emotions afterwards, talking about it. I mean, it's a little bit like I've experienced in golf for like you go to the clubhouse in golf and everybody's still talking about their most impressive round 6 months ago and the birdie they hit on the 16th back then. That is kind of what HYROX is creating, because all of a sudden people are creating memories and experiences that live with them for a very long time. And I think that is what is making fitness true. And you've obviously transformed a lot of bodies into amazing specimens, right? You're a little bit of a body transformationist, but you also know the ups and downs of trying to get people to transform their bodies from an aesthetic point of view. And I think getting people just to focus on that goal with the side effect of potential, I wouldn't call it body transformation, but the side effect of those gains that you have by training the way that HYROX trains and then looking good and then feeling good, which is the side effect. We all speak about, I don't go and play tennis because I want to have a six-pack. I want to go play tennis because I like to compete. I like the sport. I like to improve. I like the friendships. I like the social aspects. Yes, it keeps me healthy, but that's the side impact. And fitness was kind of the reverse. I go to the gym to look good, but all the rest wasn't relevant. Which means the stickiness was people are just going up and down. They have a healthy period and they have an unhealthy period. They have a healthy period, unhealthy period. And I think this is where you're seeing a massive retention play in the gym industry. Whereas an example, F45, we're saying in the UK, members are staying longer because they're training for HYROX.
They've got a target.
They've got a target, but they also have a community.
Yeah.
I don't change my golf club every 6 months because there's a cheaper discount next door. I stay with the golf club because it's got the right coach, the right social environment. It defines who I am. And I think in the future, we see a far stronger relationship between member and coach. We see a stronger relationship between member and gym.
Well, that's already happened, Douglas, in our community. For example, we've got our coaching team that are competing with our clients in doubles. And I think there's something to be said. I mean, we both come from a sporting background. I come from a football background. You don't let your teammate down. And guess what carryover that has in business? Yeah. You don't want to let your business colleague down or your client down. And I think it's gold. And it's something you just touched on there as well, Douglas. You said about during COVID, and I was already online, so I wasn't one of these coaches, but a lot of people pivoted from personal training to online coach, which is fine. My whole model is built initially was online to help people, food, training, lifestyle management.
You use digital as a tool, not as a scalable delivery mechanism where you're trying to touch thousands of people in one go. I mean, you're still building personal relationships.
But the personal touch. But this is where I think there's a lot of, if you're a coach listening to this, you're online and you're trying to improve your business model and maintain retention. And we've got a phenomenal retention. Clients don't leave. You know,
why would they?
And I'll tell you, one of the main reasons is because we invest in community, with our own personal events, and now we've got the HYROXs, which it's more touch points with your clients that you are digitally managing, online touch points for your WhatsApps, all that type of stuff and calls. But then you've got these physical meetups that are built to last events. Now HYROXs, that is just amplifying those experiences and the connections. So by default, that initial investment that you've invested into me, Douglas, surface level, people think I'm just going to drop fat and improve my health. But then they go, shit, I didn't expect new friends, new connections,
new mindset.
Exactly. You know, and I think that is what, if you're a coach, listen to this. If you're not already doing your own events, use HYROX as your events, because they've done a lot of heavy lifting for you in terms of creating the pain in the ass logistics, which I know even with our own events can be an absolute nightmare, but they're worth everything and more when you see how people feel afterwards, and then people don't want to leave when they've been to them. So look into the future. What plans does HYROX have? Are there any upcoming developments or new initiatives that you're particularly excited about that you can share with us?
I think the business is pivoting in two directions, right? On the one side, we are, with the rate of growth that we're having, we believe that fitness is truly universal, right? And that's the beauty that we're seeing, that we're able to go into every market in the world, and apparently it works. It works in Mexico, it works in Singapore, it works in Canada, it works in the UK, right? So it's one of the only sports that is truly universal. And I think that is really a golden opportunity with the brand that we've now built, that we're launching China, we're launching India, we're going to launch Brazil. I mean, we're talking 60% of the world population that we haven't even touched yet. And, you know, China's probably, I wouldn't say how many years ahead of India, but in terms of fitness development, but there's still so much more to do in fitness around the world. And we know that everybody wants to be healthier and everybody wants to live a longer life. So I think those trends will not change. I think our impact globally, going from 85 events this year to potentially 150 events to potentially a million athletes around the world, is one area of growth. The second area, which is actually now also my full-time responsibility next to running North America, is to build out the gym affiliation business, right? And we've been very, very clear what gym affiliation means to us. And we believe that HYROX should be trained at every gym in the world. Very simple. If you're a gym, you should be training HYROX. Just like a tennis club is playing tennis, just like, and we're just a sport, right? Everybody can have their own opinion of what is the right way to train for it, but we believe that every gym should be training because of all the aspects that we talked about. Community, that membership retention, having
so
a purpose and
a goal, a target. I know this for first time with clients, Douglas. A lot of people, when they've had a quick win with their transformation journey, that maybe they've dropped 5 to 10 pounds of fat, they've got a little bit fit, a little bit stronger, they get comfortable because they don't have a target. So I think the beauty of having, a HYROX aspect within a gym, it gives people a target, and it's only going to improve, like you said, someone's retention model, because one of the biggest reasons people do not stick to a gym is because they're disempowered, they're not seeing progress, and they don't have structure.
and no education, right? And I think we're all seeing that functional training, and that's not new to anybody, is becoming a bigger facet of the gym. If you just look at the square meters in gyms, you're seeing endurance equipment getting thrown in the garage because they're like, okay, we don't need more Stairmasters, we don't need more cross trainers. We actually need to have a more impactful center. Heart of the gym is all around the functional training area, right? And I think as we're seeing that trend now develop, it's kind of like, okay, but it's not an easy way to train, right? Because it requires coaches at a higher level. It requires different types of equipment. It requires more focus on technique training, right? So our goal is really to empower more coaches in the world to deliver healthy performance training, which is being able to coordinate a group of 25 to 40 people to do a great workout that is healthy, that is, I wouldn't say technique focused, but it's, you are guiding athletes to become better athletes in the same way you would at a football club. And I think that is, if we're able to install that, then a Planet Fitness is going to be relevant for you. A CrossFit box can be relevant for you. An F45 box can be relevant for you. So I think our goal is to install our performance mindset and how you've been trained as an athlete in the past. How do you bring that more mainstream? And therefore our goal is to we're in 3,000 gyms at the moment, which happened literally, I wouldn't say without lifting a finger, because we're building the whole marketing funnel in the back end, but we haven't invested in the B2B product. And now in the next 2 weeks, we're actually coming out with a full digital delivery to coaches to deliver great group classes, right? And empower the coach. We're not saying, coach, follow the script, run a class. We're telling the coach, this is how you can program. This is what the program looks like. These are alternate exercises for people that might not be able to do a certain exercise. These are replacement exercises if you don't have the right equipment. And that's what we're trying to do. We're actually trying to make the coach the center of the group class again, rather than a screen or rather than a great entertainment delivery, right? We're not an entertainment disco at workout. We're a workout that makes you a better athlete. And I think that is a mindset we would like to install in.
Which I think as a coach and someone who actually loves coaching and I pride myself on standards, great mentors, all that type of stuff, I think it's only going to up the game of people's coaching, which is a good thing because the ripple effect, the better standard someone coaches, you're actually doing your job.
But the members are demanding more, right? The members are not demanding a coach to watch me bench press and watch me squat anymore. And I think it's still a small percentage, right? And I think now with the positive ripple effect of HYROX becoming more mainstream, people are asking their coaches different questions, which means that the coach probably needs to have an upgraded education, a slightly different education. Yes, I've got my strength education. Yes, I've got my endurance, but do you really understand the running dynamics? I mean, like I said, I don't come from a sports science background, but how we're making running an essential part of what goes on in the gym and empowering coaches to understand running technique or understand cadence or understand breathing around running. That's what a PT has never had to.
Well, it's a bit, but again, I think just someone who's evolved from a coach to a entrepreneur as such, it's going to force coaches to stay in their lane and evolve their business model and think who, not how, which is only going to help the overall experience as for the client anyway. Because I think so many coaches, you learn a certain way, you become a personal trainer, you become a coach, but then you stand still, you get lazy because you think this is all I need to know to enhance, to give a client a result. But I think because of the dynamic of that HYROX race, you need to know a little bit more than how to. Yeah,
look at it. It's not fair to judge all coaches on the same way, but.
Yeah, but I also think as well, Douglas, sorry to interrupt there, is I cannot tell you how it's far too easy for coaches to become a personal trainer. It's not hard to become a personal trainer. You get a qualification that you can, but to be a coach who actually does what you're coming to this game to do, help someone look, feel and perform better, it requires work. And I think.
I sometimes give the example, right, of tennis coaches, right? And I got to play with great tennis players and had great coaches. I would pay them $40 to $60 for an hour, and they were top 100 in the world. And I'm playing a PT or $120 an hour. That's probably at 3 months of education, no background, and I'm paying him $120 an hour. That's doesn't share in contracts of what is actually necessary to make me a better athlete or a better performer, right? And I think that is hopefully where we're kind of bridging the gap or building a bridge between what traditional fitness is and what the sports, what the performance sports ecosystem look like. And this is super exciting, right? Because if gyms actually become training clubs. And that's kind of also the name we're going for. Like, hey, we're not talking about HYROX affiliates anymore. We're talking about HYROX training clubs. Yeah. That's where you go and train with a like-minded community, with coaches that can help you in your sporting aspirations. And I think that's really what's changing the dynamic of what coach you choose, what gym you choose, what environment, what social environment you want to train in. And that those are three choices that people didn't have to make in the past.
With all that being said, how exciting, the scalability, how it's exploded, all these plans. What's the biggest challenge there? What's the biggest fear? Because with every rate of growth, there's always what has been the biggest lesson or biggest challenge that you see or have had so far with HYROX?
Yeah, look, it's also personal, right? We've got an extremely determined, ambitious two owners, right? Like Christian and Mo, having the helicopter view, but Christian also really being on the ground, literally moving fences around, but he's really he's shooting for the moon, right? Then on the other side, I'm not the entrepreneur at heart as they are, but I'm really in that executional operational role, and I'm dealing daily with the operational challenges, right? Every time it's a new market, it's a new business idea. It is, how do you manage 3,500 partner gyms? How do you manage 500,000 athletes? Like, how do you build an organization with high quality people? How do you educate people? How do you there's always challenges on the way, right? You say high growth, but then on the other side, I also have to deliver against EBIT lines and manage cost. And look, at the end of the day, we're all going through the same insecurities as a leader, as a manager in running a business, right? And I think it's easy to say, hey, on the periphery, HYROX looks amazing. It's super fast growing, but every day I'm still treating it like a startup. I've got to wake up every morning and figure out what tomorrow looks like, because it's all the small puzzle pieces that make the difference. It's a community workout here. It's a pre-registration at the Puma store. They're all mini milestones that we're trying to create every day to make that big thing that everybody sees tick. And I think it's the attention to detail that's required. And I think Christian is extremely focused on that at every event delivery also. Like, everything has to be picture perfect. And look, the general athlete or client doesn't see what's going on behind the scenes. But for us to improve from 90% to 95% is a massive change in how we operate as a business, how we define processes, how we educate people, what do we pay people? Yeah. At what stage do you stay with the people that have been in the business for 5 years, but we need to make that quality injection. So it's similar to any other of the CEOs that you're working with. We're going through the similar scale up, scale down. We have investors, right? Investors have needs. So, at the end of the day, it's a super fun journey to be on, because it's not like you can sit back and go, hey, let's ride the wave. Yeah. The wave has to be, every wave has to create a new wave, has to create a new business opportunity. That it's growing at the speed of light is absolutely phenomenal, but it's actually just creating more work, which is the exciting part. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here loving the journey that we're on, and that's by no means finished yet, right?
Yeah. Last couple, because I know we've got to wrap this up. I know you're pressed for time. Let's talk about the New York event this weekend. What's going to make this New York event different?
Oh, it's absolutely insane. I mean, I'm almost getting goosebumps talking about it, because we've worked so hard to create like that. We talk about ripple effect a lot in this conversation, but like, how do we make America tick? We're a bloody German company in fitness that is trying to conquer the giant beast of the US. Honestly, it's taken 4 years to get Men's Health to show up, right? It's just a simple example. That's the truth of the matter. Like, the US is a very big country, apparently. They know fitness. It's expensive. So it's taken a long, long time to get to where we are today. And we're still nowhere near to where we are in Europe. But to have 5,000 people now show up to an outdoor event, which credit to Christian and our head of operations, to have the balls to create an outdoor event, because we couldn't get the right venue in Manhattan. We were in Meadowlands, to rent the pier out and to create the biggest ever mass participation fitness event in the US with 5,300 people, 5,000 spectators, 10,000 people there tomorrow. Like, it's opened up the floodgates to us. Athletes, celebrities, media, sponsors, all of a sudden, hey, we want to be part of that. And you'll see that this has a doubling, tripling effect. And next year we'll be here with 15,000 people. But just also for us to be able on the pier in Manhattan with sunset tomorrow night, 5,000 people doing what the guys have created in 2017 is in probably the biggest, most impactful city in the world. Yeah, it's I can't wait for tomorrow. Obviously, there's a lot of guys working their butts off right now in the background that are not sitting in this room, and I gotta give credit to those guys because they're doing all the whole 9 yards and the hard work and 48 hours nonstop, looking at weather forecasts, insurance protocols. Got a lot of crazy Trump supporters outside. What's that going to impact our event tomorrow? So there's so much still that can go wrong, but I mean, it's in that sense, it's going to be an absolute milestone for the US business, but it also, like, New York's New York, and it's, if we can make it here, we'll make it anywhere in the world.
No, I totally agree. And last question, how do you define success for HYROX long term?
You could give like a really philosophical answer, and you really talk about creating a healthier training, a healthier world to a certain extent, right? I think you could say that's the philosophical answer. At the end of the day, I think you also have to be pragmatic, and we're here to build a very big business, right? And I think that's everybody's ambitions is super, super, super high. There's very few truly global fitness brands out there, which is surprising. There's very few truly global gym brands. There's very few truly global equipment brands. There's very few truly global digital brands. I think us being able to conquer the world in that constant and make this sport universal, potentially Olympic, there's so much to do, which will all have a very positive effect on the business, but we're literally creating, hopefully, a mainstream sport, which will then resonate in an extremely successful business, which will then resonate in, hopefully, people perceiving fitness in a different way and subsequently becoming healthier. And then will help the whole ecosystem. It will help your business. It will help the apparel business. It will help the equipment business. It will help everybody in this billion dollar industry, which some say hasn't really been transformed that significantly in the last 20 years. And I think we're maybe a small disruptor. I mean, we were listed yesterday in the top 100 most influential companies. It's one of those moments again where you go, hey, the reason why we're influential is because we're disrupting what is already quite a traditional market of PTs, of gyms. Are gyms truly innovating? How are they innovating? And I think we've just been able to find a niche that has made that whole big gym business go like, oh, wow, I didn't know that was possible. That is doing something positive for my business. And everybody's coming together. Competing gyms, competing coaches, competing apparel brands, they all want to be part of the ecosystem of the sport that we're creating. So at the end of the day, HYROX is no different than triathlon, is no different than tennis. We're going to be an ecosystem with hundreds of brands and hundreds of organizations leveraging the global community of HYROX athletes or fitness racing athletes.
I couldn't agree more, Douglas. Mate, thank you so much for your time. I mean, just on a personal point of view, I know I've only done a few HYROXes myself, and our community are relatively new to the HYROXes, but I look forward to supporting.
What's your goal tomorrow?
My goal is to finish it injury-free, by the way. Finish it injury-free is my first single, but as I said, I've had a few mishaps. But
do you have any tips for your listeners on
the actual race itself? Don't get too excited at the start, as we've said. I, like Douglas, did a monstrous first kilometre run in that one in Dubai. I think I did it in 3:10. And then things went to shit a little bit halfway through. But I think if you've never done a HYROX, it's a phenomenal competition. If you are someone who has done sport in the past and has missed that competitive aspect, you are someone that is a little bit bored of just doing your standard week-to-week training. And also, and this is what we focus on so much inside Built to Last, is if you know that you are craving a community that makes you think better, inspire you to train harder, maybe eat healthier, you can't be finding a community to help you do that. For me, environment is the key to long-term behavior change. It's the key to higher performance. It's the key to a healthier body, key to getting better. It's as simple as that. And we have enough evidence in life, in sport, personal development, and business, that if you surround yourself with better people, and people are energy chargers, not energy drainers, then you can't go far wrong. And I think that the couple of HYROXes I've been at so far, Douglas, the energy is electric, and it's testament to all the hard work you guys do, and it's a pleasure to be a part of that. And I can safely say our Built to Last community will be coming to many more, and I look forward to.
Yeah, but thank you for that, right? It wouldn't be for all those communities out there that the sport is able to grow, right? So you need those strong leaders and those strong coaches to see the opportunity from a business point of view, from a health point of view. And I think that's, it's mostly actually the opposite. It's like, thank you for bringing the community to us, and hopefully it will all grow simultaneously, right? And that's what we're trying to achieve.
Just like you, Douglas, I'm not in it to fuck about even my own business. I want to change the world in a big way, and I think there's so many business owners, CEOs, entrepreneurs who are currently underperforming, and I think having a target like this would really help help them be just as healthy with their body and their performance and their health as they are with their business and their bank balance. So
super cool. Well, I look forward to judging your wall balls tomorrow.
I hope not. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
guys, and I'll see you next time.